Let's talk about, well, more attacks on freedom of speech. I mean, another day, another attack on freedom of speech. What would you expect this time? It's freedom of speech in the pub, because pubs could be forced to ban customers from speaking about what are regarded by, well, you know, the offendertrons as contentious views like politics, religion, or, you know, basic biological facts like men can't become women and women can't become men, over fears that they could fall foul of Labour's workers' rights reforms, which require bosses to protect their blue-haired, flimsy, hopeless, pronoun-announcing workers from hearing things they don't agree with and find triggering. Let's talk about this with Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, commentator at the New Culture Forum, who I'm sure, Rafe, I'm sure you, like me, have offended a million people in pubs over the years and are happy to carry on doing so.
Yes, I've seen more than a few raised eyebrows after one of my jokes, I have to say.
Excellent. Don't tell it on air, I'll get sacked.
But, you know, we're laughing about it, but actually this is really sinister and deeply insidious stuff. And it doesn't just affect, you know, that casual chat and banter in the pubs. It affects organisations like mine, the New Culture Forum, like the Free Speech Union, because, you know, historically pubs have always been political. Let's just remember that, you know. They've been hotbeds for radical and subversive politics, the place for philosophers and revolutionaries and conspirators and others to meet and discuss. And that carries on today for many organisations. We at the New Culture Forum have a new thing called NCF Locals. We've established 30 branches across the country for local people, many of whom are fans of yours and watch Talk all the time, to get together in a safe space where they can talk about things they can't talk about with their family, with their co-workers or anywhere else. And they really appreciate having these places. And we use pub function rooms to have that.
And I know a lot of, you know, what's the awful phrase, gender critical women, i.e. people who understand basic biological sex and science. You know, the amount of times that they're told, oh, no, you can't, you're transphobic, you can't have a meeting in our pub. You know, there's rooms that you hire for 30 quid to have a meeting. But this isn't even about that. I mean, which is appalling enough. This is about, you know, sitting in the pub at a table, having a conversation, bartender comes over to collect your glasses and overhears you say, yes, but of course, you know, trans women aren't women, they're men, they're biological men. That person could sue their employer, and therefore the employer, well, the onus would be on him or her, whatever their pronouns say, them, they, to ban that customer. And I worked in pubs. You know, banter is kind of one of the reasons people go to the pub. This is going to kill off. I mean, you know, you've got all the rules in pubs anyway. We had the queuing system and the one-way system to the loo during COVID. We've got, you know, the smoking ban. We've got all these, the cost of a pint and a glass of wine, absolutely astronomical anyway. If they do this, and landlords are terrified that they are going to be sued for hundreds of thousands of pounds by some blue-haired barmaid, I'm sorry, that's the end of the pub. It's over.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect thing for the Labour Party, of course, because we know that they hate free speech and they hate the pub, right? So they get
and they hate fun.
And they hate fun, right? They tried to ban smoking in pub gardens. We've had a huge rise in alcohol duty. Pubs are in crisis. Thousands are closing. And, you know, the pub is a very symbol of liberty, of freedom, and of Britishness. And so, of course, it's no surprise that Labour wants to attack it. And by attacking the pub, they're attacking the British people and the idea of liberty, because the pub is the public house. So it's only one step removed from our private house. You know, for hundreds of years, our houses were so cramped and tiny, we couldn't socialise. So the pub at the end of your street was an extension of our own living rooms. It's where we could gather and talk freely.
I think so many people forget, it's public house. It's where you could talk and you could mix freely. I have a funny feeling that many in Labour view, you know, everyone in the pub as basically just a horrible racist, xenophobic bigot. Those people, you know, who vote Reform or voted for Brexit and they all had horrible views and we don't want to hear them. And if we don't hear them, then it's okay. But again, this is all part of the crackdown on freedom of speech, which is this idea that if people can't say it, they can't write it, then they won't think it, which is literally the opposite of what actually happens whenever freedom of speech is curtailed. It's much better if people do have views. Now, I've been in a pub where someone says, I said, excuse me, you know, if someone's using horrible language about gay people or black people or something, I would absolutely say, hey, I don't speak like that. And so, I don't want to have to hear your horrible views, But, hey, people are entitled to hold horrible views. Now, there's a difference between, customers saying that. And a landlord would be entitled to say, look, I don't want people upsetting my other customers. But that used to be when someone said something, they were like shouting and swearing, or they were aggressive, or they were imposing themselves on other people. And landlords can be very strict about that to keep the atmosphere going in their pubs. But that's very different from this law. This law is about even people having a quiet conversation between two people.
Well, I think this is going to become a big issue for the courts here, because they're going to have a big kerfuffle now about freedom of religion, for example.
Yeah.
So if you are a religious person and you're having a religious or philosophical discussion, and you have, those are protected characteristics, the right to express yourself on those levels,
yep.
and someone clearing glasses objects to your traditional religious view on women, for example, or on homosexuals, well, who becomes top trumps in that case, Identity politics versus freedom of religion. And I think under the Equalities Act, the courts would come down, I'm pretty sure, on freedom of religion being paramount.
Well, only certain religions. Only certain religions. You know the rules, Rafe.
You're not likely to get many religious Muslims in a pub, I suspect.
There is that. There is that, absolutely. But it is, and again, and people joke about these things, but it's actually very, very serious. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, commentator at the New Cultural Forum, thank you very much, dear. I would love to spend an evening in the pub with you. I have to say, it's been very, very good fun.